All right, what's up? Episode 55, Me Duole podcast. This is all about how to crush the Crusher. So Crusher and the Tushars coming up in just a couple weeks. So it was suggested by brother Taylor Cannon to get some advice from some of these OGs who've done Crusher multiple times. So I interviewed Dave Sharp, Scotty Miles, and Spencer Chipping, who each shared some tidbits on tires, gear, nutrition, how the course plays, everything that you'd want to know about maybe prepping for weather. So hopefully you enjoy some of their tips and tricks. I'll work on getting some more, but this is a good start for anybody who's doing Crusher for the first time and you're worried about some just logistical things. So very thankful to those that participated. These guys have all been on the podcast before, so thankful for their time. It was fun to interview them. Anyway, a lot of Me Duoles doing Crusher, like a ton. I think we've got over 20 different people registered to attend the event, so it should be a blast down there at Crusher. So anyway, enjoy the episode, and I'll see you out there. Bye. All right, welcome to podcast. I'm Stuart, and welcome brother Dave Sharp. Hey, Dave.
Hey, Stu.
I mean, besides being a host on this broadcast, you are our registered mentor and wisdom provider. This is your third opportunity to share with the team. Thank you very much.
I love it.
We just keep going to the well, hoping it'll give us more.
Until it doesn't.
Keep filling us up. So Crusher podcast, we're talking to some of the masters of this thing. If you didn't know, Dave, so 5 times at Crusher?
Registered 5, raced at 3.
Took first place last year. Guy knows what he's doing. That was awesome. And I even remember some of your pictures last year. You were like snapping some shots, waltz riding.
I couldn't help myself. It was awesome.
You were even, I think, snapped a pic on the final climb, right? You were just like, that face, I remember. Brutal.
Well, that's because, I mean, butterflies were going past me. So I'm like, I got to snap this. I'm going so slow. Certainly I can take a picture.
Let's dude, that's good. That's a good place to start. How do you approach this day? Is it like whatever butterflies? I mean, what do you try? What's your mindset?
I mean, I've said this before. The mantra I live by is Sharp family rule number 1 is the 7 P's.
Mm-hmm.
Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And so, I mean, I start thinking about this race as soon as I get accepted into the race, just like every other race, right? So it's all the training. I mean, like this race is different because you got to train on hard gravel roads and you've got to train to friggin' suffer for 6 to 7 hours, 5 hours if you're AJ, right?
Right.
But it's I would say the hardest suffering I've done in any race.
And is that because
the terrain is brutal, the pace is brutal. You got to have all of your gear just dialed in to have a good day. And I'll share just a couple of thoughts on how my 7 P's failed me.
So when you show up today, 2022 race, is your mindset like I'm going to win from the minute we start, or is it like law of attrition? I'm just going to survive this thing and hopefully win. Or are you like, oh, now I'm going to make my move? Like, how do you approach this activity?
So last year I approached it that I just want to have a fast, decent time without crashing, without any major mechanicals.
Got it.
Because I knew because the way they had staged it was 50 to 59. I was 58. I knew I was going to be in there with AJ. No way could I hang with him. And then they staged us. So it was 50 to 54, 55 to 59. And I'm like, maybe I have a chance. I don't know. I mean, it's the kind of race that anything goes because it's so gnarly. You could crash. You could have a flat at any minute. Just anything could happen. You could bonk. I mean, the first year I did it, it was 105 degrees going up the Col de Crusher. And I had to get off and walk like 3 times because my back was sore. I was so dehydrated. But so you got to prepare for the worst and hope for the best, just like any other race.
Okay. All right. Let's talk then through how do you approach nutrition here? Tips and tricks on just getting through the day for food. Because Spence has kind of told me, a lot of nutrition out there on the course. So let's hear what you got.
I mean, I start out with, I took AJ's advice. I've always eaten solids generally on a race that long. Um, but I tried to go largely just gels and blocks with
Okay.
liquid carbohydrate. And I think I had one bar. And so that served me well. So I started with a pocket of stuff. However, the support is awesome.
Yeah.
You got to pit yourself. They don't do hand ups, but you know, you can pull over and fill up your bottles at any time, and they have blocks and gels and bars and all kinds of stuff. So it's awesome. So the support's really excellent. So I started out with full pockets, kind of planning that I'm not going to take too much support, but for fluids.
Nice.
I mean, it's 6 to 7 hours, right? So
Right.
whatever you can have to consume. But the thing that's different too is the weather conditions could be
Yeah.
totally different depending upon which year it is. Because one year it was super rainy, and I didn't race that year, but that was a totally different race than my first year, which was 105. And that also will totally change the course conditions because it could be wet and muddy and sloppy, or it could be just bone dry and dusty and loose. And also, it like one year I rode the washer boards were just brutal, and that just takes so much out of your arms. Whereas another year it was pretty smooth. So
Huh.
you kind of don't know. So you just got to go into it thinking, okay, I just got to suck it up and just
But
send it.
but no hydration packs. Like we don't need that kind of stuff.
No,
No. No. Okay.
no hydration packs.
Let
I just start out with two big bottles, knowing that I'm going to fill those bottles. And with regard to bottles, you got to make sure that you have really solid cages or a strap system with elastics to hold your bottles in. Because as you go down the Col de Crush, which I want to say is like, I don't know, somewhere between 2 and 3 miles, like it's brutal washerboard,
yeah.
or it can be. And there are bottles, there are tool kits, tool packs, there's stuff strewn all over the course. And the last thing you want to do is lose a bottle, right?
Yeah. Or I guess
So
I could start with no bottles and just pick some up on the way. Just
you can do that.
grab some
Yeah.
grab some other guy's stuff. Hey, well, what about let's talk. Everybody wants to know about tire width and PSI.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other question is which
Kind?
I also say it's not the arrow, it's the Indian. So which arrow do you pick, mountain bike or gravel bike? Because you see guys on mountain bikes,
Okay.
and they're going to be hardtails. They're going to be lighter hardtails. I raced with a guy last year in my group who's super strong. He chose to ride a hardtail last year, and he said it's the worst decision he's ever made. So I would say 100% go gravel.
Okay.
Because there's 11 miles of road leading up to the climb or up to the dirt. So you're going to want a gravel bike just to be fast on that section. And then there's another section that's, I don't know, 12 to 15 miles. Once you get off the Col de Crush, you hit road, and then you got to ride into Circleville on the highway, and you're pace lining with dudes. You do not want a mountain bike for that.
Yeah.
So 100% gravel bike. My first year, I rode 30 width tires that were not great, and they were tubes. Worst decision I'd ever made. That's where my 7-piece failed me. Do not ride tubes. You have to go tubeless.
Okay.
Because again, going down the Col, it's washerboard, and you're going all out, and you're bouncing all over the place. I flatted twice. I broke 2 tire irons replacing 2 tubes. It set me back an hour. I lost an hour. That was terrible.
Yeah.
So what I found was what's worked best for me is absolutely go tubeless, but I use Specialized Pathfinders.
Okay.
They're awesome gravel tires, and I go with the 42 width.
Okay.
You could go wider if you wanted. I wouldn't go anything narrower than 40. and I ride 34 to 36 psi. So you don't want them so soft that you're going to bottom out your rims, but you don't want them so hard that you're bouncing all over the place, because that's your suspension basically.
Yeah, yeah. And that would really wear on you by the end of the day.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Bouncing.
for sure, I think the hardest part of the whole race is the cold to crush, going down and then coming up. So going down, if it's washerboardy, I mean, it's terrible. And you carry a lot of speed just as soon as you hit that thing. And then there's a hard left turn. My first year, there was a dude that took that too fast and he just yard sailed it on that. And he was jacked up bad. And then last year, and then right before you come off it on the road, there was a hard turn to the right, and there was this dude flying too fast, and he ate it hard there too.
Oh my gosh.
So my advice is, don't just ride within yourself as you descend that, because the worst thing you could do is crash on that, because then it's game over.
Yeah,
so that's going down, and make sure your bottles are tight and strapped in if you have to.
Okay.
Coming up, it's a death march.
So coming up, Dave, just because I don't know, this is the end, right? The final, How many miles? 10 miles up?
No, it's not the end.
Okay.
You've got, once you get on top, then you've probably got another, I don't know, 12-ish. I'd have to look at the course map, but it's at least another 10 to 12 miles of dirt, I want to say.
Okay.
Maybe it's 8, but it's a long ways from the time you get to the top. And then you're just pitting it at that point. And then you've got 2 miles of road, which feels amazing. So you have this descent on this road, and then then you make the turn to get up to the finish line. It's a mile that's like straight up. It's like the worst mile of your life.
I've seen videos.
I was like almost paperboying the thing at the top. It's brutal.
So good, dude.
But my secret weapon this year is I bought a suspension stem for my gravel bike.
Cool.
So it's got like these, hard rubber stoppers in it. It's got like 6 degrees of sway, and you can adjust the stiffness of it.
Nice.
And I've ridden my bike a few times with it. It feels like it makes a pretty good difference, and you don't get a bob like if you had a fork. But I mean, I'm telling you, as you're going down the coal, and if it's washerboard, I mean, your Relief Society arms are flapping like there's no stopping. I mean, it's crazy how much your arms can flap around. And I have nothing on my arm.
Any other like pivotal moments of this course where you're like, oh, here's this thing I got to be ready for? Is there anything else where you're like I'm not saying sneaky, but yeah.
Yeah, no, the top of the coal, it kicks up to like 20%.
Okay.
And it's really loose and slippery. And I literally get off my bikes and walk it, just to give my back a rest. And at that point, if you're going to lose a minute, big deal. Other guys can do it, but it's almost like it's so slippery you can't paperboy it. You have to keep spinning a high cadence. Gearing, you're going to want some pretty high gearing on your bike if you have the option to swap it out. But last year, as I came off the top of the coal, it was, you're seeing stars. Jess Loper was up there handing out hot Red Bulls. I took a hot Red Bull, and it saved me.
I love that, dude.
Look, it's just kind of survival.
That's what I
at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's awesome.
Hey, man. Anything else? Any predictions?
No, I predict AJ will win it again in his group.
Yeah.
There's no stopping that guy. Although Scott Allen and Tyler Lamprick, those guys, they're 3 forces to be reckoned with. It's a lot of fun. I mean, just, don't go out too hot, because you got 11 miles of road, and then it's just anybody's game. Anything could happen. And spend some time training in gravel, so you're used to cornering in dirt and braking on descents and knowing how to do that. Because if you don't, it could end up in a disastrous mess.
Okay. I love it, dude.
So
All right. Nice. All
it's
right,
an
Sharp.
awesome event. Can't
Thanks,
wait.
man. Can't wait.
All right, man.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks, man.
Okay,
All right.
see
See
ya.
ya.
All right, we got Scotty Miles. This is maybe part 2 of Crusher Podcast. Grateful you joined me, Scotty. We are going to talk about your experience and advice. This was a shout out from Taylor Cannon. He wanted to know everybody's advice here, so I'm just kind of gathering everybody. Scotty, how are you?
Doing good.
Dude, Crusher is it's like your home turf. It's like do you just love it? It's like your favorite thing of the year, and not really.
It's definitely a love-hate relationship. This is number 4.
Yeah. Okay.
So started in 15 and 16.
Mm-hmm.
Took a well-needed break after that. Then COVID came, and then went back last year, and then this year. So
Nice.
I don't know. It's a tough one. It's probably the hardest physically speaking. It's probably the hardest gravel race I've done, but I don't know, it's probably the funnest as well. So it's a challenge. It's a good one.
Is that because of terrain, or is that because you go harder? You want to like be faster?
Yeah, it's just the climbing. The other races I've done, there's climbing and you do a fair amount of climbing, but there's not the sustained climbing that you have on Crusher, specifically the second climb. It kills you. So it's just a different type of race, and a lot of races, end up with a downhill and different things, and this ends with an uphill. And so it's just kind of a different beast that definitely some more strategy associated with this than a lot of the other gravel races, at least I think.
I know. And are you willing to share your secrets, your strategies?
Sure. Yeah, I don't.
Okay,
they're not that good, and they're not that proprietary. So yeah.
Well, I texted you about a month ago and asked you for your advice, and I thought the way that you described the route was very important. Do you want to start there? How you break the route up into a couple different ideas? Okay.
Sure. We'll start there. So Dante, he's got his 9 circles of hell on his journey to hell. In this case, we're kind of let off the hook a little bit, and there's only 3 circles on our journey to hell. So,
oh my goodness,
so
good.
And then you've arrived when you're on the Col de Crush, and then you see the sign that says "Welcome to hell." And you've made it to the 3rd circle, and you're about to see Satan and Elvis and everyone else who's there to greet you, and you're
welcome.
Yep. So we'll start with circle 1.
Okay.
Circle 1 is the first climb. So out of the gate, you're leaving the town of Beaver, you're looking eastward, and all you see are these little rolling hills, and you're like, how does this get up to like 11,000 feet? There's no way. And then you go and you go and you go, and these mountains start to get a little higher, and you start climbing, and you transition. There's kind of the neutral rollout for the first half hour or so, or whatever it is. Then you get to the dirt, and the climb starts. And the trick on the first circle is you need to decide how you're going to kind of gauge things and run things from there. There's kind of some different approaches that people take. And you just need to make sure that when you get to the last climb of the day, you've got enough kind of in the legs to get to the top without really breaking down. So yeah, it's just a matter of knowing how hard to go on that first climb. And people have different strategies. You can kind of go all out and try and get ahead of people and then see how you feel, or you kind of gauge your effort and take it easy.
If you had 100 matches to start with, how many do you need for the final climb?
About 120. You definitely want to save your matches. It doesn't do you tons of good to burn too many on the first climb. I mean, it feels good. You want to be at the front of the race, but ultimately everything's going to be won and lost, generally speaking, on that last climb and what comes after it. And so you don't need to worry too much about exactly where you're at. It's a mass start. They let people go every 2 minutes. And so that you got hundreds of people all spread out within about 10 minutes worth, and people kind of jockey for position a little bit on the pavement, but it doesn't do you that much good to really get up there too quick. But any place you can get ahead without much effort, you're drafting. So I'd move ahead in that group to the extent you can. Don't cross the double line. You don't want to be one of those guys, but if you can move up on the line without crossing the double line, might as well. And then when you hit the gravel, it's just, you got to set your watts or set your heart rate and run your race from that point on almost. So that's circle one. Then you get to the top.
Okay.
And you're heading down, and you got the downhill, and it's pretty fast and furious. You're going 30 miles an hour on these skinny tires, and it's a little scary. Generally speaking, while it's scary, it's fairly safe. There's not that many turns. There's a couple of hairpins on Col de Crush, because you're going down Col de Crush at this point, and you'll go back on the way back. And so there's a couple of hairpins you got to be careful on. You definitely want to slow down for those. You don't want to go wash out in the corners. But if it's fast and straight, you just go fast and straight, and you're kind of looking around you at the time, because after the gravel section, you've got the pavement, and you want to be with somebody going through the flats, going through Junction and Circleville. And so you kind of want to see what's around you. If you got 5 minutes ahead of you, then you're kind of in trouble, unless people are going to come from behind and pass you. And then if that's the case, there's some people that pass you, then I'd suggest you stick on their tire and try and kind of follow them down, because then you'll at least have them going through those flat sections, because most of the race you can just suffer on your own, but you really do want to have at least a little group going through Junction and Circleville. Whether it's 3 people or 10 people, you want a couple people.
Somebody. Okay. Nice.
So that's circle 2. And then from circle 2, you really got to make some decisions. So you've done the first climb, and going into Junction, there's a feed zone. But at this point, people are just going super fast, and you're on the pavement, and you're about to kind of go through the highway section, and you're with a group, hopefully. And then there's a feed zone right there. And so then you ask yourself, well, I could stop, but then what, right? And
yeah.
There's going to be someone behind me, and maybe, maybe we'll have a Duole group that's all together, and we all agree, let's stop, and then we'll hit the flat section, and it'll be good. And then people can stop and fill up. But generally speaking, people blow by that first feed zone and keep on going.
Okay.
Take turns going through the flats. People, will kind of egg people on to really pull hard, going through the flats. Don't buy into that. Don't go too hot. You've got an incredibly hard height or hard climb ahead of you. So if you get on the front, stay there just for a minute, or pull to the extent you can, but don't be goosing it too much going through the flats. It's just not needed. Okay. And then you'll come around the corner, and before, they used to have a feed zone right there at Circleville. But I've been told, and I looked on the website, it looks like they've moved that feed zone from this side of Dock Springs Road to the paved side of Dock Springs Road. So right as we get back onto the pavement, I believe that's where they've moved that feed zone, which is definitely a better spot for the feed zone. It was the same thing going through Circleville. A lot of people wouldn't stop because you're with a group, and they'd keep on going, and then you'd get to on Dock Springs Road, and people would kind of start to just explode, and it was bad news. So having a feed zone after that little dirt section that's kind of deceptively hard, that'll be good. So
nice.
So that is circle 2, and then you've got circle 3 that, like I say, takes you to the top of Col de Crush. You'll see the sign, "Welcome to Hell," and you'll be in a bad spot. And there, it's just, man, like I say, I've done the race 3 times, and I've cramped every single time on the hill somewhere. Different points in each race. First race, I think it was earlier on, and then the last 2 races, I kind of cramped up towards. Actually, I think I got to the top, and then it flattens out, and then there's some rollers after that, and it was right there at the rollers that you give your legs a little bit of a rest and they think they're done. And then you hit them with a little hill and, oh yeah, I've just locked up and had to get off my bike and walk, and all those people you spent all that effort passing, I'll just go right by you, laugh at you a little bit and kind of snicker under their breath. And
thanks for the pull, idiot.
yeah, exactly. So stupid. Thanks for pulling us through the flats, idiot. So
Nice.
yeah. So that's the guy I don't want to be at some point.
Okay.
Maybe this will be the year, probably not, but I'd like to think this could be potentially the year I don't cramp. So that's the goal.
Awesome. That is so good. What do you run? Everybody wants to know tires and tire pressure. What is do you have a system?
So the tires last year, I had some 40s. This year, I'm going to some 42s. I rode the IRC Boken double cross tires. That was a recommendation from fellow team member Greg Iverson. He rode those, I think, on Belgian Waffle a couple years ago, and I put those on for Wasatch last year and thought they worked real well. And I think they'll be super good for Crusher as well. They've got a fairly good profile, which is, you don't really need for the up, but on the down, it's, gives you a little bit more confidence on the corners, and there's not that much penalty on the flats and the paved section. So I like those ones a lot, but I'd say with at least a 42, definitely not below 40, 42 and up.
Okay. Any nutrition things that
and then I guess air pressure.
Oh yeah.
It takes not to, obviously, I don't know, I'd say 30, 35 in the back, maybe 32 in the front, somewhere in that range for the 42s. But anyway.
Nice. Anything you do different for nutrition, or is it just pretty straightforward?
Like I say, the trick is convincing yourself. Yeah, that's the part I haven't figured out yet. So when people figure it out, let me know. You've got two options, right? You can do the 2 bottles and then convince yourself you need to stop and fill.
Yeah.
But it's tough with the first feed zone in Junction. If you don't do the bottles and you do go with a vest, then it's probably going to be quite a bit easier to get maybe a whole race, a vest with a bottle, and then fill up that bottle a couple times, either on the pavement after Circleville or once you that in the middle there, and then on the way going up the coal, you can get some more nutrition there. I pretty much carry all my nutrition. I've never really
stopped and got
food.
okay.
Yeah, you don't want to stop for food. So anything you can stash in your pockets is probably the way to go. Anything that'll sit well in your belly.
Okay.
But yeah, the biggest question is just what you do with water. I'm half tempted to do 2 bottles with maybe just a third bottle in my maybe a disposable water bottle in my jersey, and try and get to that fill up zone after Circleville and then just fill up that one time. So that's an option, or a vest. So like I say, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, because no hand ups, right?
No hand ups. So yeah.
Okay. You got to stop.
Which at that point, once you get to that point, it doesn't matter if you stop for 30 seconds. That's not going to break your day.
Yeah.
Walking your bike's going to break your day, but stopping for water isn't going to make a huge difference. So
I can't wait to be in hell with you.
It's going to be great. Like I said, it's a pretty good love-hate relationship.
I love it, dude.
Some team members that just walked away from that last year with a hate relationship, but I'm still kind of in the love-hate. I like it.
That's so good. All right, dude. Anything else? Has been wonderful.
Geez, I don't know. After that, like I say, once you get to the top, there's a lot. You think you're done. There's still some rollers. At that point, like I say, the only goal at that point is to not cramp up. If you can not cramp after getting to the coal and doing the rollers, you're home free, and you just kind of nurse that till the end and do what you can do. But it's a fun one.
How many miles are left after at that top part you're talking about, like rollers?
Yeah, there's a ways.
It's a ways, right? Yeah.
Exact profile, but yeah, you've got a little bit of climbing left, fair amount of flat stuff,
and then the super crazy steep thing right at the end, right?
Yeah, but at that point you've had some downhill, and I haven't had any issues going up that cramping wise. You're kind of tired, but I haven't had any issues with that. But
okay.
Yeah, last year I got to, you could see right before the downhill, there's a long flat section, and then there's a little rise at the very end, and I could see the end. And I started cramping up again. I was so pissed off. I was thinking to myself, I just need to get like a quarter of a mile and it's downhill, and I just couldn't even move my legs. But like I said, that's not going to happen this year.
No way. No way. Top step. All right, Scotty. Appreciate you,
It'll be
man.
fun though. There's tons of guys signed up. It's gonna
I
be
know.
fast, so
It's gonna
I'm
be good.
excited for it.
The real question is, you gonna wear yellow? You gonna wear red?
No.
What are you gonna wear? No.
I don't know. That's
only
the
wear
other thing
black
is,
in
well,
hell.
the weather's always a wild card. You don't know if it's going to be 100 degrees or snowing on you. So
Yeah,
I'll probably wear white and just break out the bleach afterwards.
me too. All right, tell us about prep.
All right. So as we've done the last couple of years, getting ready for Crusher. Once this originated when we didn't do Crusher as a result of COVID. We went out and did a Crusher replacement ride. And then last year we continued the tradition with the Reckoning Part 2, getting ready for Crusher. And we are having the Reckoning Part 3,
Okay.
July 2nd. We'll come up, do a ride, something pretty good to get ready for Crusher, something that has 2 pretty good climbs in it to kind of try and simulate what we have ahead of us the next week. It's kind of hard because I can't really do it before that just because of other commitments, and it's only about a week before the race. So people will have to just decide how much and how hard they want to go, but we'll do a good ride July 2nd.
I'm putting it in my calendar right now.
Yeah. You got to be there. There'll be some support, and it'll be fun, and it'll be hot.
The Reckoning Part 3.
There we go.
Okay, man. Thanks.
Thanks for sitting.
Okay. Welcome, Spencer Chiffy, to the podcast.
Hey, welcome.
Remind us how many times you've done Crusher.
3 plus the virtual that was
Oh, yeah.
the one where you did. Man, I think that was the hardest one. You had to figure out a place to go climb 10,000 feet and like 70 miles. And anyways, I did the PC loop, but did all the mountains with it on my gravel bike.
I mean, you've done a lot of events in your life. Where do you rank this on the level of like physical exertion, technical ability? Got to be prepared. Like, how hard is this thing for you?
Honestly, I bet every gravel racer would suggest that that this is that the Crusher is like perfect. It's the perfect distance. It's the perfect amount of gravel, and it's not like overdoing it on like, hey, we have set out as an organization to be something that like you can't accomplish. It's perfect.
Okay, that's great. And you've got some interesting experience that others don't have, which is where you find great joy in not staying in Beaver. Tell us about that.
Not staying in Beaver. You can sleep at the very top, which is where the finish line is. Eagle Point Mountain is also a ski resort, and you can get these. You can either VRBO up there, or you can get these cool little, just like tiny little cabins. And the only drawback from that is you have to drive down to the start line in the morning, and that takes. And just as a side note, something that Duole does not do is ride that canyon. The Beaver Canyon is equivalent to riding up Little Cottonwood. That's how gorgeous this place is. It is
the
amazing.
Tushars.
Yes.
Yeah. Is this a race that you would just say everybody's got to do it? You love it that much.
Yeah, you got to do it. If you're enjoying, we've had a big uptick in gravel riders on our team in the last year, and it's just one you got to do.
So what makes a great day at Crusher?
Man, I would say feeling good. Everyone talks about the Col de Crush. It's the toughest climb of the day. 100% gravel. The gravel is a little gnarly, depending on the weather. If it's been hot and dry, it's very loose, and it's just a bear of a climb. But that's where most would, complain of either cramping or just dehydration, or because it's also hits at the hotter point of the day. It's toward the end. Yeah.
And are you constantly thinking to yourself, oh man, it's coming. Like I can't do that. I gotta wait. I mean, is it that bad? No, I don't want to say
No.
that bad. No, I mean, you're
Mm-mm.
just like, it's just another climb. Here it comes.
It's just another climb. It's one of those that everyone says, try not to just focus on someone next to you, or do if you ride that way, but you kind of, everyone knows their zone, and you just kind of have to focus on yourself, and you're just my head kind of just goes down and I go into the zone, and it's like, I know I can do this, but at my own pace, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've mentioned, you've told me a couple times now about nutrition on the course. Because I was like, should we carry a pack or whatever? And you're like, absolutely not. Go ahead. Will you tell everybody? Yeah. How
For
that
sure.
works?
Crusher is known for being one of the most well-supported events that I've raced in road, mountain, or gravel. And there is such good support that you do not need any kind of a backpack for carrying nutrition or hydration. It's just over 7 miles per feed zone, roughly. Like it's
Wow.
like constant. Yeah, so good.
But no hand ups, right? I think, sure. Yeah. We just got to, you
Yeah.
got to stop. Yeah.
You pull up, because you will not have your support on the road. They're going to see you at the start. They're going to see you at the end. You roll up to a table, and you can either get off your bike and fill your bottles, or they are the type that will come up, pull your bottles out of your bike, fill them for you, stuff your pockets. They'll do it. They do it all.
When you wake up in the
Yeah.
morning, what are you packing for clothing?
Yeah. So know that in the morning, you'll feel like it's just a nice summer 7 a.m. day. But as you look up top of, you can already see the clouds like brewing, and it just doesn't matter what year it is on Crusher, or they say during a certain time of the day at that elevation, it will rain. And I've not just had rain, but I've had hard hail, and it lasts, and it generally happens to come during Col de Crush while you're climbing that last section, and so adds a little injury to insult.
So do you care? I think I've seen you carry the crystal jacket.
I have, but I wouldn't like highly recommend that jacket, but I carried it because we knew we would be in rain that day. But even a full long sleeve jacket could be overdoing it. But you guys know I kind of over plan a little bit, and so I would at least have a vest for when it starts to rain on you. But many don't. I just a little over prepared on the warm side for myself. Yeah. It will rain.
Everybody wants to know about gear, specifically tires, tire pressure.
It's been a big, always a hot topic on any gravel event based on the type of gravel. And then typically these events have a little bit of road mixed into them. Well, the standard that you will see will be a 38 or above tire width. And even today you're seeing from 40 to 42s. They're just getting bigger and meaner so that you can descend in the gnarly crud. But so to everyone their choice, I just wouldn't go any smaller than a 38 or even a 40. I'd say 38 would be fine. But so then on that point here, just to keep an eye out, you descend the Col de Crush. For anyone that has not ridden it and you're looking at the map, you descend Col de Crush and you get onto the highway, and this is a very key time where you get into a draft group and you're riding on the highway, and you have like 30 minutes of highway where you can finally eat, you can finally drink, and you can draft. And if you find yourself solo going down Col de Crush and getting on the highway, that's not good. You need to be in a group, because you can really make up some good time drafting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And talk about going down Col de Crush. There is an important safety tip you provided. Bottles.
Going down Col de Crush, and even after the first climb, keep in mind, everyone, that as soon as because the first climb of the morning is on the road, and then it moves over to the gravel, and you've at that point passed the cutoff time. Once you pass that cutoff time, you begin the descend even before Col de Crush, and bottles are flying everywhere. I mean, there's crashes due to bottles, and then you just go down to reach your bottle and it's gone because it flew out. I lost one bottle and just picked up someone else's that was full, because you have to have the nutrition. So do your best to, that was during COVID, mind you, the tail end of it. That sounds terrible, but try to get cages that hold your bottles in. Like, you got to test that.
Yeah.
You don't want your bottles flying out.
Okay, good. Any key points of this day where you're like, you got to know this is happening? You got, besides that, I guess that final climb, anything else that like your experience has shown, this is where important things are gonna, I mean,
yeah, the race director always says to everybody that is, you've got these strong roadies coming in, and they take their I'll use this as an example, the race plate that you put on the front of your bike, and they're trying to make it so it's more aero, like putting it on the back of their saddle or their seat post so that it's not slowing them down. The race director makes a lot of fun of those roadies and says on the microphone real loud, and makes you feel dumb, that this race has never been won by someone that descends fast or is more aero. This race is won by those that can climb hard in the gravel and descend fast on the gravel. So that's just to kind of gauge where you are in your from climbing. And then just know that weather is a big denominator, whether it's going to be super dry and loose or a little more tacky. And then the last thing I'll add is, just for fun, because I think our group of riders rides their tires a little high, go to the NV station at registration when you've got some time, and they'll take your bike, they weigh it, they look at your tire size, and they take your weight and your height, and then they tell you what your front and tire back, or your pressure PSI should be going into the crusher based on the terrain.
Cool. Nice.
And it will surprise you. You'll be like, you're telling me I gotta let this down to 21, right? And you're like, I've been running at 35 or something. You know, they're like, well, you can do that, but you will be in a lot of pain hour 5, 6 when you've just been
just fried.
You gotta trust the tire gripping, going up with a little less and descending, like, huge difference. That's all.
That's great advice. Okay, well, we're a couple weeks away. Very good. Anything else? Any concluding remarks?
Nope. Good luck to everyone. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, a lot of Duole showing up, so
so good.
should be good. All right, Chip, thanks,
All
man.
right, guys.